was confronted by my successor, Dick Thompson, and that's when things really got wild around the courthouse. He'd show up with his arms in stockade and demanding to be arrested, and it was just, you know, it was pretty much a hectic couple of years.
Oakland County Prosecutor L. Brooks Patterson was once the prosecutor. He says assisted suicide is a complex issue, and he's not sure Jack Kevorkian was the best spokesman for the cause. There are many people who would argue otherwise, people passionate about the right to die, who have supported Kevorkian's mission for decades.
But his resolve also earned Kevorkian plenty of enemies who thought he was crossing a legal and moral line by helping people die. Action News reporter Anu Prakash has a look back at the man and his mission.
What counts is what's best for this patient in front of me.
The world first learned of Dr. Jack Kevorkian in June of 1990 when Janet Adkins' life ended in the back of his old Volkswagen van. The 54-year-old woman from Oregon was the first to die with Kevorkian's suicide machine, a contraption with a button, when pushed, released a lethal mix of drugs into the patient's system. At the time, Adkins' husband read a letter that Janet, an Alzheimer's patient, had written about wanting to die.
I have decided, for the following reasons, to take my own life.
It was Adkins' death that catapulted Kevorkian and the issue of physician-assisted suicide onto the national scene. Our Mary Conway met Dr. Kevorkian nearly a year later when he came to Action News to talk about what he saw as a terminally ill patient's right to die.
There's no way a person can suffer this way. It's the calmest way to die, and the most dignified because it can be done in anyone's home.
There were dozens more patients and a number of court cases pointing out the lack of legislation concerning assisted suicide. Kevorkian became known nationwide as Dr. Death. He and his flamboyant attorney Jeffrey Feiger demonstrated a flair for drama. Once Kevorkian showed up for court in a powdered wig. When jailed, he went on hunger strikes. Several times he was carried out of the courtroom. But through it all, Kevorkian insisted he was only helping relieve pain and suffering. For people like Sherry Miller, who died at the age of 43 after years of struggling with multiple sclerosis.
I want to die.
That's as plain as you can put it.
Yeah.
The legislature passed laws prohibiting assisted suicide, and groups representing the disabled called Kevorkian a serial murderer.
We're not dead yet.
Kevorkian repeatedly called for other doctors to join him, saying that end-of-life decisions for the terminally ill should be regulated, not illegal.
Experienced, compassionate physician who is immune to any kind of pressure, financial or peer or legislative, any kind of pressure, and who has a clean record. That's the kind of physician who should start doing this.
Several times Kevorkian had legal victories, cases thrown out of court because of loopholes in the law or jury acquittals. But in November of 1998, Kevorkian, stripped of his title as a doctor, carried his campaign much further, giving 60 Minutes a tape showing him injecting 52-year-old Thomas Yauk with a lethal mix of drugs.
Tom, do you want to go ahead with this? Yeah.
Kevorkian had thrown down the gauntlet, and the Oakland County prosecutor at the time, David Gorsuch, responded by charging him with first-degree murder.
I didn't give Mr. Kevorkian anything. He brought it upon himself. I am following the law as I am required to do.
Just look at it. Honestly, no, honestly. Do you see a criminal? Do you see a murderer?
The jury convicted Kevorkian of second-degree murder. The judge at the time, Jessica Cooper, sentenced him to 10 to 25 years in prison.
And you had the audacity to go on national television, show the world what you did, and dare the legal system to stop you. Well, sir, consider yourself stopped.
Jack Kevorkian's attorney petitioned then-Governor Jennifer Granholm to release him, citing his deteriorating health and promising that he would no longer assist in suicides. But each time the governor refused, perhaps remembering how many times Kevorkian had made the same promise.
When a patient needs help, I'll help a patient. I don't care what.
Have you talked to your associate?
If you were the patient, would you want me to stop? Would you?
In 2007, Jack Kevorkian was released from prison after serving more than 8 years of his sentence.
Feels wonderful.
Right, Dad.
Looking good.
One of the high points in life.
In February of 2009, I interviewed Kevorkian following a raid in Pittsfield Township. It was part of a probe into the Final Exit Network, an assisted suicide group. Kevorkian told me he had never been contacted by that group.
I don't know if they really supported me or not. I don't know. It looked more neutral to me than anything else, but it didn't really matter. They just couldn't do it correctly. I knew that, so.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's a medical service. Should be done with medical people.
Kevorkian said he didn't agree with the group's methods, but believed in the organization's mission.
It's a small step, but it's a step in the right direction to get it so it's practiced. See? Because people want it.
A little more than a year after that interview, Kevorkian was in the spotlight again, this time in the HBO movie You Don't Know Jack, The Life and Deaths of Jack Kevorkian. Al Pacino played Kevorkian, and the role of the assisted suicide advocate earned Pacino Golden Globe and Emmy awards.
There you are, Jack.
But for the most part, in his later years, Kevorkian lived a quiet life. In that 2009 interview, he told me he still received many letters of support, and despite igniting a firestorm of controversy, Kevorkian continued to defend his beliefs.
Once in a while, I'd get a letter from some desperate family member who pleads for help somehow. If nothing else, what advice can I give, you know, which I couldn't, of course. And it's really tragic. So much misery that's unnecessary in this world.
I'm Anu Prakash, Channel 7 Action News.